Right now on Morning News Now, work week washout. After enduring a holiday weekend of extreme heat, tens of millions of people across the Northeast are under flood watches this morning as they head back to work. Intense rainfall overnight turning the streets of the Jersey Shore to watery canals. And parts of New York hit with more than half a foot of rain. The areas hit hardest by this wild weather, and the latest forecast across the country coming up. Meanwhile, courtroom confrontation. Erika Kirk coming face to face with her husband's alleged killer for the first time in a Utah courtroom on Monday. Prosecutors are presenting evidence in a week-long hearing on why 23-year-old Tyler Robinson should stand trial for the murder of the late conservative activist. What we heard in the courtroom and where this case could go next. Plus, health alert. A parasitic illness linked to contaminated food and water is sickening hundreds of people in parts of the country. NBC News medical analyst Dr. Kavita Patel joins us live with ways you can limit your risk of illness as health officials work to identify a source. And finally this hour, devastating defeat. Belgium eliminating the U.S. from the World Cup last night with a dominant win in Seattle. The dream of a World Cup win now over for the U.S., but there are still several exciting matchups ahead. Who stands to take those final spots in the quarterfinals later this hour? That was a blow for us.
It was. I warned viewers yesterday I'd be tired this morning. Promise kept.
Yeah.
I am. We were up late, but still plenty more soccer action.
Exactly.
Good morning. Good to have you with us. I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Savannah Settlers. Thank you so much for being here. We're going to start this hour with the severe storm slamming much of the eastern part of the country. This morning, 8 million people across the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic are under a flood alert. Overnight, torrential rain sent water surging, triggering harrowing rescues like this one we're going to show you in New Jersey, where first responders helped this woman and child to safety.
Also, take a look at this BJ's Wholesale Club, where surveillance video shows the moment the roof collapsed, sending shoppers running for their lives. The sheriff says no one was injured when the roof collapsed here. There it is.
Wow, what a video.
This was not the case at the theme park in North Georgia. 4 guests were injured after they were hit by a massive tree that collapsed during a powerful storm there. Now, utility crews from Louisiana to Connecticut are working around the clock to restore power. NBC News correspondent Aaron McLaughlin is in New Canaan, Connecticut, and has the latest. Aaron, good morning.
This morning, millions of Americans are wringing out after torrential downpours struck the Mid-Atlantic and the Northeast, submerging cars and snarling traffic. In Ocean Township, New Jersey, terrifying surveillance footage shows the moment part of the roof of a BJ's Wholesale Club collapsed, sending a wall of water and debris into the aisles. Miraculously, authorities say no one was injured. On the Jersey Shore, floodwaters turned streets into watery canals, and in Long Branch, first responders helped a woman and child to safety. Here in New York, Brooklyn's famous Coney Island was drenched by over half a foot of rain. The latest downpours came as folks were still dealing with the aftermath of a wild holiday weekend. In Paramus, New Jersey, a street lined with 75-year-old sycamores came crashing down over the weekend, one falling between 2 homes in a near miss. And crews worked all day to restore power despite the rain, with more than 350,000 people across the Northeast in the dark Monday night. Now, to put all of this in perspective, New York normally only gets about 4.5 inches of rain for the entire month of July. But yesterday, in some places, they saw more than 8 inches of rain. That is a month to 2 months worth of rain in just a few days. Thankfully, today it's expected to dry out in the New York area, but there's more rain on the way for New England. Back to you.
All right, Aaron, thank you.
Now let's bring in NBC meteorologist Angie Lastman.
She's tracking what's next for us. Angie, good morning.
Hi there, guys. Good morning to you. We indeed do once again have some of this kind of rain focused across parts of the Northeast. Boston to Albany, all included in this, out towards Nantucket. Notice New York City, Philadelphia, stretching down to Washington, D.C., much drier than what folks were dealing with yesterday after that deluge of all of that heavy rain kind of lifted into the region. Notice, though, 8 million people still under these flood watches stretching farther to the south, Richmond, Norfolk included in that. This is going to be something that you're going to have to watch for through the day today, with some additional minor rainfall farther to the south, but most of it kind of hangs out up into parts of New England, southern New England specifically, again, Boston, and then New York City will see a couple of these showers kind of impacting folks, but most of the heavy storms are there for folks across the Mid-Atlantic. Meanwhile, we've got this next system that we're going to be watching across parts of the Mid-Atlantic as we get into tomorrow. We're not looking at widespread flooding, nothing like what we've dealt with over the past couple of days. But again, something to be mindful of, especially today as folks are trying to clean up after all of that heavy rain and really the heat that we dealt with over the weekend, something as well. Notice the rainfall amounts, maybe 1 to 2 inches up to 3 inches in some spots. That's focused farther to the south across the mid-Atlantic. Mentioning the heat, not so much for folks across the Northeast. We've seen that lift. That's really actually quite on the cool side right now. Different story, though, farther to the south. We've got some of these heat alerts still up for 9 million people across the Carolinas, Georgia, and Florida as we gear up for kind of multiple days of hot and humid conditions across parts of the south. Mid-90s for Raleigh and Charleston, but notice those heat index values back to the triple digits. 103 for Raleigh, 107 for Charleston. Warm as well across Houston, with a heat index of 107 today, 106 for what it'll feel like in New Orleans. And we don't see a whole lot of relief across this region, even as we get into tomorrow. Notice those 90s for actual temperatures and 100 plus for the feels like temperatures. And if you're not at 100 in places like Atlanta, you sure are close. 98 degrees for your feels like there for tomorrow. Unfortunately, still steamy as we get into late week, Thursday, Friday, and into this upcoming weekend. All of those locations still into those triple digits for the feels like temperatures and at least into the mid-90s in a lot of spots for your actual temperatures. This is going to be something you deal with for multiple days on end. And that goes for our friends across the West, too. 19 million people under these heat alerts there. We'll see some daytime highs as high as 116 degrees across parts of the desert, guys. This is going to be something that we once again are watching for multiple days across this area. So it's the rain for the Northeast. We've still got some heat across the South at this point.
Always summer somewhere. All right, Angie, thank you so much. Appreciate it. President Trump has touched down in Turkey this morning for a high-stakes NATO summit. The main focus, the war in Ukraine.
The president said the resolution to the conflict was getting closer, but just yesterday, Russia carried out another deadly missile and drone attack on Kyiv. The president is expected to meet with President Zelensky at the summit, following calls with both the Ukrainian leader and Russian President Putin over the weekend. NBC News Washington correspondent Alice Barr joins us now with the latest here. Alice, good morning.
Good morning, Savannah and Joe. We're expecting a formal welcome ceremony any minute for President Trump, who's just landed in Turkey for a NATO summit that comes amid ongoing tensions with some of America's closest allies in Europe. Tensions they're looking to overcome as they push for more U.S. support for Ukraine. President Trump traveling to Turkey for a critical NATO summit amid a renewed push to end Russia's war on Ukraine. Overnight, Ukraine released new video of drone attacks on military targets in Russia. After at least 22 Ukrainians were killed Monday in a wave of Russian strikes on Kyiv. President Trump is set to meet with Ukrainian President Zelensky at the summit, following calls with both Zelensky and Russian President Putin over the weekend, saying both want the war to end.
We're going to be talking about it, and I think we're going to get it. I think we're going to get it ended.
Russia has now launched 2 deadly bombardments in less than a week. The death toll chilling evidence of Ukraine's dwindling missile defenses, something they'll keep pushing NATO for this week. Zelensky has frequently pointed to delays in restocking military supplies.
You see what does it mean when the packages come to Ukraine slowly.
Part of the problem, the war with Iran has raised concerns American resources are strained, though the White House is adamant the military has what it needs. That conflict also testing President Trump's relationship with NATO's European allies, who he slammed for not doing enough to back the U.S. against Iran, and is again pressuring to boost their defense spending, something European officials insist they've done, hoping now for new U.S. commitments on Ukraine with tensions high. President Trump posted overnight that the U.S. military has never been stronger, but that Congress must pass $350 billion in defense spending to keep it that way. Joe and Savannah.
All right, Alice, thank you so much. Well, this morning, Democrats are scrambling to pick up the pieces of a crumbling campaign that is crucial to the party's effort to win back the Senate this November. Graham Plattner, who's the Democratic Senate nominee in Maine, is now denying a new allegation of sexual assault.
Politico released a report yesterday detailing the latest allegation against Plattner, which comes from his former girlfriend, Jenny Rassicott. She claims Plattner forced her to have sex with him despite repeated objections after Plattner showed up to her home uninvited intoxicated and drunk. She said it happened back in 2021. Now, Politico reports that it spoke with a man Rassicot dated and confided in the years after the alleged incident, and that it reviewed documents, including emails between Rassicot and her therapist. NBC News did not independently verify the report, and through a representative, Rassicot did not comment to us. In a new video statement, Plattner called the accusations categorically false. Here is some of that message.
So, regardless of the inaccuracy of the reporting, but mindful of the political reality it will inflict, we are taking the time to reflect on the best path forward for the state that I love, the people that I love, the movement I belong to, and the goal of defeating Susan Collins.
For more on this, let's bring in NBC News senior national political reporter Sahil Kapoor. Sahil, good morning. So first, just fill us in here and tell us more about the new allegations.
Savannah, the accuser is Jenny Rassicot, 41 years old. She alleges that back in 2021, when she and Graham Plattner dated, there was this non-consensual sexual encounter where he showed up at her home, uninvited and unannounced, intoxicated, forced himself on her, even as she told him no. Politico, which first reported this, had their corroboration in the form of emails to her therapist and messages that she sent to an acquaintance warning about this, all of this, before Graham Plattner ran for office. She had previously spoke to the New York Times and said that Plattner showed reckless and unsettling behavior, didn't say anything about this instance. She now says she didn't speak up then. She was reluctant to because she didn't want to be known as a rape victim, and that she's coming forward now because other allegations in the New York Times article ended up being questioned or downplayed by critics, and she now wants the truth to come out. Plattner is firmly denying these allegations. He calls them troubling, serious, and false. He says any allegation of non-consensual behavior is categorically untrue. But very notably, for the first time in Plattner's year-long campaign, he's opening the door to potentially dropping out. There was that key line in his statement in which he said, "We are taking the time to reflect on the best path forward." He said for Maine, for the people, for the movement, and for the goal of defeating Senator Susan Collins. So that's the big question now. Is he going to end his campaign because he's coming up on an important deadline to make that decision?
We'll talk more about that in a moment, Sahil. But as you mentioned, this is not the first time that someone has come forward. A former girlfriend of Plattner came forward with accusations about behavior in the past. Just what has been the reaction among lawmakers and also voters in Maine?
That's right. This is not the first accusation he's faced. This is, however, according to Plattner's allies, the most serious and the most well corroborated. And this one hits differently to them. The reaction has been swift and very critical from Democrats. Numerous Plattner allies and defenders, including several who had showed up in Maine to campaign for him, have rescinded their endorsement and called on him to drop out of the race. That includes well, let's first start with top Democratic leaders, Chuck Schumer and the DSCC chair, Kirsten Gillibrand. They had endorsed him, but they now say he needs to drop out, and they warn that Democrats will not invest in Maine if he is the candidate. That's a huge blow to any potential campaign that he might try to wage, because without the money from the National Party, he does not stand a chance of defeating Susan Collins. There's Congressman Ro Khanna, the progressive, who is considering a presidential run in 2028, called the allegation serious and credible and a red line for him. Senator Elizabeth Warren, who also traveled to Maine to campaign for Plattner, said there can be no tolerance for sexual assault. She called on him to drop out. Now, I'm told a number of Democrats feel angry and misled by Plattner, that Plattner had assured them privately that after his prior controversies, there would not be stories of this nature, sexual assault, coming out. And that was one of the reasons they were willing to stick by him in light of the prior controversies. He told them a story about how he made mistakes and did some bad things in the aftermath of getting deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan as a combat veteran, but that he was a changed person, that he was a better person now. Said there weren't stories like this, however, coming out, and they believed him. Many of those Democrats now feel burned.
Sahil, there's also a major deadline coming up that could have massive implications on this race in particular. Tell us about that and some of the more specific concerns for Democrats as Plattner says he's weighing his future here.
The key deadline there, Savannah, is July 13th, this coming Monday. Under Maine state law, Graham Plattner has the opportunity to drop out before then, in which case the state party can select a new candidate by July 27th. Now, that process is going to be fraught. It's going to be problematic for the state party, essentially party elites, to get in a room and choose a candidate who did not go through a primary, who was not chosen by the voters. But nevertheless, that's the position they're in. Many Democrats feel they have a better chance with a different candidate than with Graham Plattner if he were to stay in the race past July 13th, he would need to show evidence of an emergency where he's physically incapacitated and have a doctor sign off on the fact that he would not be able to carry out the duties of senator. So he'd essentially be stuck if he doesn't make that decision by Monday.
Sahil, this all begs the question, if Plattner does drop his campaign, do we have a sense of who might take his place? Because obviously within the Democratic Party, this really pits the liberal wing against the more moderates.
Absolutely. That factional dispute between progressives and moderates has only intensified. In the wake of this, you've got moderates blaming the left for a failure to vet this candidate and for elevating a candidate who is this problematic. But a picture is beginning to emerge of potential replacements. There already is some jockeying going on between some prospects. A few names we've heard, including several who were runners-up in the Democratic primary for governor. Troy Jackson, the former state Senate president, he seems to be the progressive favorite here. There's Nirav Shah, the former director of Maine's Center for Disease Control and Prevention. In addition, other candidates who have been floated, House Speaker Ryan Fecteau and State Senator Joe Baldacci. There's a lot of work for the Maine State Party to do if, in fact, Graham Plattner drops out and creates this opening in this crucial Maine Senate race, which Democrats see as must win if they want any shot at winning the Senate majority. Guys.
All right, Sahil, thank you so much.
It is day 2 of the week-long hearing in Utah for the man accused of assassinating Charlie Kirk. Now, this is a pretrial hearing. Prosecutors are trying to convince a judge that 23-year-old Tyler Robinson should stand trial for murder in the death of the late conservative activist. They are also seeking the death penalty. For the first time yesterday, we heard from an officer who was there when Kirk was shot. He testified about how authorities started piecing together evidence that the shooter was on the run.
It looks like a sniper pad, a person that has been laying in a prone position, and you've got markings of elbows, knees, and feet to where somebody was in the line of sight of where Charlie's tent was.
This hearing is also the first time that Kirk's family has been in the courtroom with his alleged killer. High-profile conservatives were in the courtroom yesterday with the family as well, including the president's son, Donald Trump Jr. Robinson was charged with shooting and killing Kirk back in September during an event at Utah Valley University. Robin has not yet entered a plea in the case.
NBC News legal analyst Misty Maris is here with more on the case once again for us. Misty, good morning. So prosecutors, obviously, this is day 1. They played several videos from the day of the shooting. We also heard from police witnesses who talked about identifying Robinson, arresting him. What stood out on this first day?
So it is the amount of videos. So we've seen a lot that had come out publicly in the wake of this shooting. But investigators that took the stand yesterday referenced hundreds of hours of surveillance videos from phones from people who were there that day. And also specifically 16 hours of video, they say, depicts Robinson or the gray Dodge Charger that they say he drove to the campus. So expect this to be a very video-heavy case. By the way, a lot of those videos not being shown to the public because of their graphic nature, staying between prosecutor, defense, and the judge.
During this preliminary hearing, Misty, the prosecution is expected to play these recorded statements from Robinson's roommate, also his romantic partner, but they're opting out of having him on the stand. Why would they do that?
So funny enough, it was the defense who wanted to bring the roommate into court and put him on the stand so they had the opportunity to cross-examine him. One of the big differences between a trial and preliminary hearing is that the evidentiary rules are a lot more lax. So hearsay is actually allowed. Instead of the roommate taking the stand, they can play this recorded investigative video that was taken back in April without him actually going on the stand and giving him the defense the benefit of cross-examination. Judge said, you get that, but you only get that at trial.
Recall Robinson turned himself in after authorities say his parents recognized him in surveillance pictures. He hasn't actually entered a plea yet. I know every state is different, but walk us through why maybe he hasn't entered a plea.
Yeah, Utah is very unique. Yeah. So in many states, you know, you go to the grand jury indicts. Here in Utah, they actually use this preliminary hearing as the mechanism to establish whether or not there's probable cause. So that's what the judge will determine. The next step, if the judge says, yes, there is probable cause for these charges, will be an arraignment where he will then enter a plea. So it's a little bit of a different state from a procedural perspective.
What did we learn about the potential defense strategy yesterday?
I thought this was interesting because there's no plea. It has been a mystery what the defense is going to do in this case. But if you listen to the cross-examination, I started to really hear some patterns. There was a lot of questions about the lack of security. Only 6 police officers for thousands of people. No security checks checking for weapons at the front. No drones. Also making a point to say this is a concealed concealed carry state, right? It's okay to have a gun on campus. And in addition to that, we also heard a lot of questions about how do you really know that this was Tyler Robinson? So it seems that that's going to be the theme of the defense. A lot of focus on a holster that one of the investigators wrote in his report that they found at the site from a pistol, but was never picked up and never tested. Nobody knows what happened to it. So I would expect you're going to hear a lot about the investigation when this case goes to trial, and what the defense will say was it wasn't sufficient.
So this suggests that maybe they wouldn't be going down at this point on any sort of mental health argument or anything like that, right?
Based on what we're hearing from this cross-examination, It seems it's going to be prosecutors. You don't have enough evidence. But again, anything can change. We're so early in the process.
Christy Maris, good to have you with us.
Thank
you
you
so much.
Well, newly released video shows the dramatic rescue following that hard landing a seaplane made on the East River here in New York on Sunday afternoon. No one on board was injured miraculously. But now, as NBC News correspondent Sam Brock reports, federal investigators are working to determine what caused that crash.
You see right there to the left? To the left, right where the helicopter is.
The frantic rush to save passengers on the East River.
How many people you got?
Seen through brand new body cam footage from NYPD's Marine Unit.
Okay, come this way, come this way, come this way.
After 8 people on board a seaplane had to be rescued following a hard landing Sunday.
You're doing really good.
The NTSB and FAA now both investigating the incident, the sudden drama captured from inside the cabin, where passengers remained collected even as the aircraft hit the water, snapping off the piece that connects the wing to the fuselage. Moments later, this emergency call from the pilot.
Mayday, the plane down on the water.
With helicopters above and NYPD boats racing to help, no one, incredibly, was seriously injured. Kathy Babis has been a pilot for 50 years and is certified on seaplanes.
Sometimes the water is doing something you absolutely didn't expect at that moment in time, and you end up with a hard landing. The nose will typically flip over, then everybody's upside down, and that is less survivable. And I give kudos to the passengers. They were remarkably calm.
These passengers just relieved.
Come this way, come this way.
For the heroic response and a plane that stayed above water. Sam Brock, NBC News, New York.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.